There are moments in history when God does not shout. He signals. He does not thunder. He stirs. And tonight is not about bricks or walls, wood or stone. It is about movement. Because when God speaks of a house, He is never speaking only of a building. He is speaking of a season, a calling, a transition. You may think you are standing still, but heaven says you are already in motion. What you called delay was preparation. What you called loss was release. What you thought was the end of something familiar was actually God loosening your grip so He could place something greater in your hands. On December 28th, the word is not wait. The word is not hold on. The word is move. Because God does not relocate people randomly. He moves them when the old place can no longer contain the next blessing. He moves them when the oil has outgrown the vessel. He moves them when the walls you are in were only meant to shelter you for a season, not define your future. If you have felt restless, if what once felt safe now feels tight, if your spirit has been hearing whispers of change you couldn't explain, this message is not coincidence. It is confirmation. God said you will move to a new house. And when God speaks of movement, heaven has already gone ahead of you. This is not about leaving comfort. This is about stepping into alignment. When God speaks of a house, He is not speaking first of walls, ceilings, or doors, because before there was ever stone or wood, there was a dwelling of the Spirit. From the beginning, God has always moved His people before He revealed His plans. Abraham was not given the destination before he was told to leave. Israel was not shown the promised land before the wilderness. And Joseph did not step into the palace until he was moved through the pit and the prison. Every divine relocation begins with a word that unsettles the familiar. You may have thought the house you were in was permanent, but heaven marked it as temporary long before you did. God allows comfort only for a season. And when the season expires, the place that once felt like refuge begins to feel restrictive. That discomfort is not punishment, it is prophecy. It is the signal that the assignment of that place has been completed. There are houses you prayed for and houses you survived in. And there are houses that carried you through storms you never speak about. But there comes a moment when God says the oil has increased and the vessel must change. The house that once held your tears cannot always hold your testimony. The rooms that heard your prayers at midnight are not always the rooms that will echo your praise in the morning. God does not dishonor the old house. He simply declares that its purpose has been fulfilled. And when God fulfills a purpose, He releases you from it. Many people miss this moment because they mistake familiarity for calling. They stay where God once moved because they fear what God is about to move them into. In Scripture, movement always follows instruction. Noah built, Abraham left. Israel marched. Elijah crossed. Jesus departed. God is a God who moves His people at appointed times. And when He says you will move to a new house, He is saying more than relocation. He is saying your capacity is changing. He is saying your influence is expanding. He is saying your identity can no longer fit inside the boundaries of where you are. You were not created to be confined by what once protected you. Protection was seasonal, not eternal. The house that kept you safe during the battle is not the house that will host the blessing after the victory. You may not see the new house yet, but heaven already recognizes it. Angels are already assigned to it. Favor has already entered it. Peace has already settled in it. The delay you feel is not denial, it is divine timing, aligning details you cannot see. God never moves you until what He has prepared is ready to receive you. And He never prepares a place without first preparing the person. That is why you have felt stretching, pruning, shaking, and restlessness. God does not relocate immature vessels. He waits until the soul has been strengthened to carry what the new place will demand. Every house carries a sound. The old house carried the sound of struggle, learning, endurance, and survival. The new house will carry the sound of authority, stability, multiplication, and rest. Some of you learned how to pray in the old house. You learned how to endure in the old house. You learned how to trust God when nothing made sense in the old house. But the new house is not for survival prayers. It is for governing prayers. It is not for crying out for provision. It is for stewarding abundance. That is why God must move you, because staying would limit what He intends to release. When God moves you, resistance often appears, not because the move is wrong, but because the enemy recognizes the shift. Pharaoh tightened his grip when Israel prepared to leave. Laban chased Jacob when he crossed the boundary. Resistance is often confirmation that movement is imminent. Do not be surprised if things feel unsettled, if doors begin closing, if attachments begin loosening. God is not stripping you. He is lightening the load. You cannot carry everything from the old house into the new one. Some things were assigned to the season you are leaving and cannot cross over with you. God said you will move to a new house because the old one has already given you what it could. The lessons have been learned. The prayers have been answered in seed form. The tears have been counted. The ground has been watered. And now comes the harvest phase, which requires a new loca, a new structure, a new level of stewardship. God does not pour new wine into old wineskins, because expansion requires flexibility. The new house will demand more faith, not less. More obedience, not comfort. More responsibility, not ease. You may wonder why God did not simply bless the house you are in, but some blessings require new ground. Some promises activate only when you step into the place assigned to carry them. Location matters in the kingdom. Destiny has geography. Calling has coordinates. And obedience is the bridge between where you are and where you are meant to be. When God says move, He is already present in the place you are going. He does not leave heaven behind to travel with you. He waits for you where He has prepared the future. This move is not about escaping hardship. It is about stepping into alignment. It is about positioning. It is about transition from preparation to manifestation. The house you are leaving was never meant to be the place where everything came together. It was the place where you were shaped, refined, and made ready. And now the word has been released. December 28th is not just a date. It is a marker, a line between what was and what will be. A declaration that stagnation has ended and movement has begun. God said you will move to a new house. And when God speaks movement, heaven has already opened doors, shifted paths, and rearranged circumstances, because what He is moving you into will require space, order, and readiness that the old place could never provide before elevation ever appears. Relocation always comes first. God does not lift people while they are rooted in places that cannot sustain what is coming. In Scripture, promotion never happens in the same environment where preparation took place. Moses could not confront Pharaoh while still hidden in Midian. David could not rule while remaining in the pasture. Sus could not begin his ministry while staying in Nazareth. God always moves before He magnifies. He shifts before He shines. He repositions before He reveals. And many people misunderstand this divine order because they expect increase without interruption, blessing without displacement, glory without transition. Relocation is the silent language of elevation. When God prepares to raise someone, He first removes them from what has defined them. That is why the move feels uncomfortable. Elevation requires separation. You cannot rise while remaining tied to everything that shaped your survival. The new level requires new surroundings because the old environment carries memories, limits, and expectations that do not belong to the next assignment. God moves you not because the old place failed, but because it succeeded in doing what it was meant to do. Preparation was completed there. Strength was developed there. Endurance was forged there. But elevation cannot happen in the same space where you learn to crawl. The enemy understands this principle, which is why he fights movement more than failure. He is not threatened by people who stay where they are. He is threatened by people who obey when God says move. Pharaoh did not panic when Israel cried in Egypt. He panicked when they packed their belongings. Resistance increases when elevation is near. Confusion increases when promotion is approaching. Emotional pressure increases when God is about to lift you into visibility. These are not signs to retreat. They are signals that the shift is real. God relocates before He elevates because elevation demands a new posture. The house you are leaving trained you to survive. The house you are entering will require you to steward. Survival teaches dependence. Stewardship teaches responsibility. In the old place, you prayed for provision. In the new place, you will manage overflow. In the old place, you ask God to rescue you. In the new place, God will ask you to lead others. Elevation changes your role, and relocation prepares your heart to accept that change. Many people delay their elevation because they cling to the place where God last spoke instead of moving toward where God is speaking now. They confuse nostalgia with obedience. They call comfort peace. They call fear wisdom. But God does not elevate people who refuse to move when He speaks. Obedience is the currency of promotion. Every step taken in faith becomes a platform for the next level. When God said you will move to a new house, He was announcing that elevation is no longer theoretical. It is practical. It is approaching. It is unfolding in real time. Relocation breaks ceilings that prayer alone cannot break. Some limitations are not spiritual. They are geographical. Some delays are not demonic, they are positional. God can anoint you endlessly, but if you remain in a place not designed for your elevation, frustration will follow. That is why He moves you, because what He is about to release requires space, structure, and order. Elevation is heavy. It carries responsibility, scrutiny, and expectation. The old house cannot carry that weight. The old environment cannot sustain that pressure. When God relocates you, He also upgrades your vision. You begin to see differently. You begin to discern differently. Conversations change. Desires shift. Tolerance for disorder decreases. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. Elevation sharpens awareness. The things you once ignored begin to disturb you. The things you once endured begin to drain you. God uses relocation to recalibrate your spirit so that when elevation comes, it does not destroy you. Every elevated calling requires a hidden transition. Before Joseph wore robes of authority, he wore garments of rejection. Before Esther Saint in the palace, she was removed from her home. Before Elijah confronted kings, he was relocated to the brook. God isolates before He elevates. He separates before He sends. He removes before He reveals. Relocation is never punishment. It is preparation for visibility. God hides you just long enough to refine you, then places you where what He put inside you can no longer be ignored. The new house is not about luxury. It is about readiness. It is not about status. It is about assignment. Elevation is not applause. It is accountability. And God will not elevate you until your character matches your calling. That is why relocation often involves humility. Starting over, learning again, trusting again. Letting go again. God strips familiarity so that pride cannot survive the promotion. He ensures that when elevation comes, gratitude remains intact. When God said you will move to a new house, He was not just changing your address, He was changing your altitude. Higher levels require thinner air. Fewer people can breathe there. Fewer voices can speak into your decisions. Fewer distractions are allowed. Relocation prepares you for this reality. It teaches you how to walk alone with God before He places you where many will watch you walk. Elevation attracts attention. Relocation builds discernment. Elevation brings opportunity. Relocation develops wisdom. God balances both so that the blessing does not become a burden. The new house is where your name will change meaning, where your past will no longer introduce you, where obedience will speak louder than history, where the labels placed on you in the old place lose their power. This move is strategic. Heaven is not improvising. God is not reacting to circumstances. He is executing a plan written long before you recognize the need to move. Elevation has been scheduled. The relocation is simply the doorway. And when you see through it, you are not leaving anything valuable behind. Everything required for the next level will follow you. Everything unnecessary will fall away. God does not elevate by accident. He elevates by order. He relocates before He lifts. He moves you before He manifests what He promised. God said you will move to a new house because elevation has reached the stage where preparation must give way to positioning. God never elevates a person without first uprooting them from what has become too familiar to stretch them further. Elevation is not an event. It is a process. And relocation is the gateway into that process. Throughout sacred history, no one stepped into greater authority while remaining planted in the same place where they were first formed. The ground of preparation is not the ground of manifestation. The soil that trained you is not the soil that will reward you. God always moves his servants just before he unveils his promise. Because elevation requires a shift in atmosphere, perspective, and responsibility, people often mistake stability for stagnation. But heaven knows the difference. A place can be safe and still be limiting. A house can be familiar and still be too small for what God is about to release. Elevation demands room. It demands margin. It demands a structure that can carry weight. When God speaks of moving you, he is speaking of strengthening you for what is ahead. He is removing you from the ceilings that prayer alone could not break. Some barriers are not broken through warfare, but through relocation. Some doors open not when you shout louder, but when you step elsewhere. God relocates before he elevates, because elevation changes how people see you, and relocation changes how you see yourself. In the old place, you were known for who you were becoming. In the new place, you will be known for who God has revealed you to be. Familiar as surroundings often trap identity in old versions. People remember your past mistakes, your former struggles, your early limitations. God moves you so that your future is not constantly negotiated with your history. Elevation requires freedom from old definitions, and relocation provides that freedom. The wilderness always comes before the promise. The hidden season always comes before the public one. God draws his people away from crowds before placing them before nations. Moses left the palace before leading Israel. David left the palace before ruling it. Jesus withdrew before miracles multiplied. Relocation is how God protects humility while preparing authority. Without relocation, elevation would corrupt. Without separation, promotion would destroy. God moves you so that the blessing does not become heavier than your character can carry. Many resist relocation because they fear losing what they know. But God never asks you to leave without already securing what you need. When he moves you, he goes ahead of you. The place you are entering has already been prayed over by heaven. Provision has already been assigned to it. Peace has already been released there. Favor has already waiting there. You are not moving into uncertainty. You are moving into alignment. Elevation feels risky only when you do not realize God has already occupied the future you are stepping into. Relocation is also how God silences unnecessary voices. The closer elevation gets, the more opinions surround you. Advice multiplies, expectations increase, distractions grow louder. God moves you so you can hear him clearly. Again, elevation requires clarity, not noise, direction, not confusion, obedience, not consensus. In the new place, your dependence on God deepens because familiar support systems are no longer in reach. This is not abandonment, it is refinement. God removes crutches so strength can develop. The old house taught you how to endure pressure. The new house will teach you how to manage influence. Elevation shifts your responsibility from surviving storms to guiding others through them. That is why God changes environments. Leadership cannot grow in the same soil as survival. Authority cannot develop in places designed only for shelter. God relocates you, so your mindset transitions from protection to purpose, from defense to vision, from waiting to governing. When God said you will move to a new house, he was declaring that the season of hidden preparation is concluding. The lessons learned in obscurity are about to be applied in visibility. The tears that watered the old ground have produced roots strong enough to support elevation. God does not elevate shallow roots. He waits until endurance has been proven. That is why relocation often comes after long waiting. It is the final preparation before release. Elevation also attracts spiritual resistance, which is why God moves you strategically. He places you where attacks lose familiarity, where cycles break, where generational patterns lose access. Some strongholds are tied to location. Some battles end simply because you moved away from where they were strongest. God relocates you not only to elevate you, but to protect the promise within you. He hides what is precious until the time is right. The new house represents a higher calling, not a higher ego. Elevation is not about being seen. It is about being entrusted. God lifts those who understand stewardship more than spotlight. Relocation humbles the heart so that elevation does not inflate it. Starting fresh reminds you that everything comes from God. New surroundings reset dependence. New beginnings renew gratitude. You may not fully understand why the move is necessary, but understanding is not required for obedience. God never explains every debt. Before he elevates, he only asks for trust. Faith is proven in movement, not comfort. Every step taken without full clarity becomes evidence that you are ready for the next level. Elevation responds to obedience faster than it responds to knowledge. The old house was a place of preparation. The new house is a place of release. What came before trained your discipline. What comes next will reveal your assignment. God never wastes a season. Nothing you endured was accidental. Nothing you carried was meaningless. Every step prepared you for what elevation now requires. When God relocates you, he is not erasing your past. He is redeeming it by placing you where it finally makes sense. Elevation changes your reach. Your prayers begin to affect others. Your words carry authority. Your decisions influence outcomes beyond yourself. God shifts your location because your impact has outgrown your environment. Small spaces cannot contain expanded callings. Limited places cannot sustain increasing authority. What is coming will overflow, and overflow requires room. This move is not about escape. It is about execution. Not comfort, but calling. Not leaving something behind, but stepping fully into what has been prepared. When God said you will move to a new house, he was declaring that preparation has given way to positioning, instruction to action, waiting to movement. The ground beneath you is shifting because the level above you is calling. God does not transition his people quietly. When seasons change, signs appear. Restlessness replaces comfort. What once felt stable begins to feel restrictive. This is not confusion. It is alignment in motion. Seasons are not measured by time, but by obedience. When God initiates movement, he is declaring that what sustained you before can no longer support what is coming next. Stagnation is never neutral. If you are not moving forward, with God, you are standing in a place he has already completed. Every season has boundaries. When those boundaries are reached, movement becomes necessary. God moved Israel not when it was convenient, but when the season was fulfilled. He does not wait for comfort to shift seasons. He waits for completion. Resistance does not extend a season. It only intensifies frustration. Faith is revealed when familiar ground is released. God often says move before he explains why. Obedience becomes the bridge between what was and what will be. When God spoke movement, the chapter closed, even if the surroundings have not yet changed. Seasonal shifts often feel like disruption. Desires change. Tolerance for disorder decreases. Hunger increases. These are not emotional shifts. They are spiritual signals. God adjusts the heart before he changes the environment. Movement begins internally before it appears externally. Every season carries its own grace. When that grace lifts, effort increases. What once flowed now strains. This is not loss of favor. It is transition of favor. God never removes grace without placing it ahead of you. Movement is how you follow it. Moving requires surrender. Waiting builds patience. Movement builds trust. God empowers steps, not hesitation. Clarity follows obedience, not contemplation. Each step unlocks the next instruction. Movement also brings separation. Not everyone can travel where God is leading. Some attachments belong to the season you are leaving. Distance allows what no longer fits to fall away without force. What remains is what was meant to continue. The hunger you feel is not dissatisfaction, it is direction. God uses hunger to guide movement. Comfort can become captivity if it delays obedience. God disrupts comfort to protect your future from shrinking to fit your present. When God said you will move to a new house, he was announcing that the internal shift has matured into action. Faith must now become steps. The grace has moved forward. Destiny is calling you beyond where you have been. Movement is the evidence that the season has changed. Heaven responds to obedience in motion. And as the steps continue, destiny unfolds.